The name of this story, I heard it in Barra in the west coast of Scotland. In Gaelic it's called Scripblian Yerach, which means the thin grey furrow of springtime. Like a furrow in the ground, that a plough makes. Because in the old days, when people were self-sufficient, they had to lay up enough food to see them through the winter. And usually they made it through the winter, but it was springtime that they were scared of. If it was a cold spring or a wet spring, and the grass wasn't coming on and there was nothing to feed the cows, the cattle, well, they didn't get milk, At least they could live on milk for a while and cheese and all that sort of stuff if they could get it. But if there was no grass coming on, it was a scary time. So that's what they called Scripblian Yerach, the thin grey furrow of springtime, because that's when people would go hungry, Well, this concerns a man and woman living away up in the Highlands. And he was a good worker, the man, and he tried to keep things going. But if he took 2 steps forward, his wife would pull them 3 steps backwards. And it wasn't she was wicked or anything like that. She was just a bit slow in the uptake, as they used to say. She was like tuppence half the shilling. So anyway, I'll show you how bad it was. One time the man, he came home and he says to his wife, "Now look here, I'm scarcely decent here, woman." She says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, we're rowing in the boat. The behind is nearly worn out of my trousers." He said, "I need something done about it." Oh, she says, "I'll patch them for you." He says, "I don't want patches, woman." He says, "I want some new trousers." He said, "Have you been spinning? Have you been attending to that work?" Oh, she says, "Yes, I've been doing loads of spinning," and it's not true. She'd been spinning just a little wee bit, not as much as she should have. She spun one grey big ball of wool. He says, "Now, well," he said, "where's the wool?" She says, "It's up there in the loft." These were thatched houses they lived in, stone walls, thatched houses, and they had a half loft. And they put all the stuff up there they didn't need, the spinning wheel. And if they were fisher people, they'd throw their nets up there. And if they had kids, they'd throw them up there to sleep too, and with, as I say, the fire in the middle of the floor and the smoke went up, and it cured the whole lot of them. They got kippered, like you would kipper fish. But also, when they had the wool spun, they'd wrap the wool into big balls and throw it up there. And as I say, the spiders would make their webs all around with the balls of wool, and there was their moth-proofing. Anyway, she says, "Yes, I've got plenty of wool," she says, "they'll do the job up there in the loft." He says, "Well, go up and get it." "Oh, no," she says, "I've got no head for heights at all." She says, "You go up," you see, and she pushed him up there, and here he was groping around in the darkness. She says, "Can you find the wool?" "Yes," she says, "here's a ball of wool." So he threw it down to her. Well, as quick as she got it, she threw it back up again in a different place. He's feeling around, feels this ball of wool again, throws it down. "There's 2, good," says she, and throws it up again. He finds it, down it comes again. 3, 4, 5 times it's going on like this, and about 7 balls of wool. He says, "Now, do you think you've got enough?" "Oh, plenty here," she says, "plenty here to make a suit for you." "Good," he says, "help me down." No, she says, "You got up yourself. Get down yourself." And away she went before he could see she'd only the 1 ball of wool. So she went down to the weaver, and she went in and she said, "Weaver, are you busy?" "No," he says, "I've got the loom cleared. Have you got work for me?" "Yes," she says. "Would you weave this up?" He says, "Now, weave what up?" "Weave the ball of wool I've got here." He says, "Woman," he says, "are you sensible? 1 ball of wool," he says, "that's hardly worth doing." She says, "Now, hear my man," she says. "If you pay the piper, then you can call the tune. I'm telling you, weave that up." He says, "Well, this is nonsense." He says, "You'll get a thing like a hairy hippens," as they used to say, a hippens being a diaper, just like a hairy little diaper. She says, "Never mind," she says, "go ahead and do it." He says, "Right, come back in a week and I'll have it for you." So she went home, and her husband said, "Now, how's it going?" "Oh, well," she said, "in a week I have to go back and I'll have a piece of tweed for you." "Very good." So the time went by and the week turned up, and she says, "I'm going to get your tweed tonight." "Good," says he. And she says, "Now I've got a bunch of women to help me walk it, to help me shrink it. and sing the songs, you know, the old work songs, the walking songs, to shrink the tweed, make it nice and firm and tight. Well, away she went anyway, and he's waiting for her to come home, and waiting, and it's getting very late. So he went to the door to see what was happening, and sure enough, here she's coming up the road, taking her time and dragging something behind her. So when she comes to the door, and he says, now where's the tweed? Here she goes. She says, here's the tweed. He says, mercy, woman. He says, what's that with a scrap? Oh, she says, that's not how it started out. She says, I got the nicest piece of tweed here for you. A lovely piece of tweed, she says. Would have made a suit, the whole thing, trousers, jacket, the lot, she says. But she says, I took it to a bunch of women, and they were going to help me shrink it. Oh, she says, what a time we had. She says, singers, they were lovely singers, she said, singing songs I hadn't heard for ages. And once they got started, she said, I couldn't get them stopped. And they sung, and they sung, and they sung, and they're pounding away at this tweed, she says, and it's getting smaller and smaller, and she says, finally, they shrunk it clear up to this, and that's all I've got. Well, he says, woman, it looks as though all I'm going to get is patches to the trouser after all. Well, whatever, he let that go. Winter was coming on, and where he got the money, I don't know. But he bought them a great big barrel of salt herring. You know, the fish herring, salted down, nice barrel, to see them through the hard times. So he rolled it into the house and he shoved it into a corner, and she says, what's that? He says, never mind, what's that? He says, woman, keep your nose away from what's that. He says, that's there for Scrippley and Yerach, meaning that's there for the hard times in spring. Oh, she says, I won't look near it. He says, that'll suit me fine. Keep your hands off it. So time went on, and the winter went past, and Christmas passed, and New Year come and gone. And times were getting hard. People starting to get hungry. So one day the man was away working, I don't know where. Out in the hill, or maybe out in the boat. But she was alone in the house. And she's doing what she was doing there. And she had a knock at the door, and she went to the door, and here's a poor old man, thin, ragged. She says, what's wrong with you, man? What are you here for? Oh, says he. I'm looking for some food. He says, I'm hungry. Woman, he says, I'm hungry and I'm cold. Well, she says, I've nothing to eat. She says, we've got no spare food here, but at least we've got fire. Come on in. So he went in, and he sits down by the fire, and he's speaking to her, you know. And he realised that she wasn't the brightest thing that he'd ever met. But he's looking around, and of course he sees the barrel of herring. Wasn't much else to see in the house. It was a poor place. Now he says, what's that across there, sitting there, that barrel? Oh, she says, that's a big barrel of herring, she says, salt herring. And what's it doing there? Well, she says, it's waiting there for Scrippley and Yerach. He says, for what? She says, it's been sitting there, she says, for months, waiting for Scrippley and Yerach. Well, he says, woman, it need wait no longer. What do you mean, says she? That's my name, says he. I'm Scrippley and Yerach. Oh, she says, if that's so, I'm very pleased, she says. Get that barrel out of here. It's been my way for all these months. Good enough, says he. And he got that barrel down onto the side and away out that door as though he had little wheels on his feet. Boy, he didn't hinder. Away he was. Oh, well, she was fine pleased, and she didn't think anything about it. In come her husband. Right away he noticed there was no barrel of herring. Now, he says, what have you done with it? Done with what, says she? The herring, the barrel of herring. Oh, she says, I haven't done a blessed thing, she says. He came for it. Who came for it? Scrippley and Yerach himself, he came for it. Well, woman, he says, if there was ever a straw that broke a camel's back, that's it. He says, now I've had it with you and your nonsense. He says, I'm going. Oh, she says, where are you going? Never mind where I'm going away from you. No, she says, he can't do that at all. He says, well, just you watch me, I'm going. So he pulled his cap down onto his head, and he put his hands into his pockets, his jacket, and out the door he went. Straight out, never looking where he was going. Oh, now, she says, I'm coming too. No, you're not. He says, that's the point of the exercise. I want to get away from you. No, I'm coming too. He says, no, I'm coming, says she. Well, he says, if you must come, take the door too, meaning to slam the door to the house behind her. Well, away he went, thinking on what he'd ever done to deserve a woman like this. And as fast as he could walk, he could hear her trying to keep up with him, you know, falling down and sobbing and sighing and puffing and groaning and whimpering away there. He thought, oh, well, he says, she'll tire soon. So he kept going. But no, she was hardy, she was tough. And he'd been walking for a good while, but he could still hear her trailing on behind him, trying to keep up. Well, he'd gone as far, and it getting dark, that he stopped for a while to look around about him. He thought, oh, dear me, where am I here? I'm gone lost. Well, he looks around because he could still hear her moaning and groaning there. He turns around, and she's coming up fast behind him. And on her back, the door of the house. So he watched her coming trailing up. He thought, what's she up to now? So she come up to where he was, and she turned and she dumped the door on the ground. Right now, woman, he says, what are you up to now? What do you mean? What in the name of creation did you bring the door for? Well, she says, the last thing you said to me leaving the house was take the door too. She says, I didn't know what you wanted with the door out here in the Heather Hills, she says. But she said, I did exactly what you told me, like I always do. But she says, never mind that. She says, where are we? Well, he says, I was looking about here. He says, I don't know where we are. Oh, she says, that's not good news at all. She says, it's getting dark and I think it's going to be stormy soon. He says, I noticed there's a storm coming on. But she says, what's that down there? She says, isn't that a little bothy, a little bohan? A bohan you would call it in Gaelic. A little thatched house. He says, I saw it. She said, do you think we could go down there? Doesn't look to be anybody to home, but we could maybe get shelter there. He says, I was thinking about that woman. He says, but there's something hinders me. What, says she? He says, I think that might be the hideout for that bunch of robbers that's been going around terrorising people round about here lately. Oh dear, she says, that wouldn't do. That wouldn't be safe. Well, he says, I don't know. He says, maybe you did a good thing taking that door. What do you mean, says she? Well, he says, here's my plan. We'll take that door, we'll go down into that little shed there, we'll shove the door up onto the rafters. He says, and I'll shove you up, and you can pull me up. And he says, even though somebody does come by, he says, who would think of looking up into the rafters to see a poor old man and woman lying there in a door? Oh, she says, you're very good with your idea. She says, we'll do it. So they did. Down to the hut there, inside, shoved up the door, and he pushed her up and she pulled him up. He says, now, for once in your life, listen to me. If anybody does come in, be silent, be quiet. Oh, she says, of course, she says, my lips are sealed, you won't hear anything out of me. Good enough, says he, but he wasn't very hopeful. Well, they'd hardly got settled down when they heard somebody coming. Oh, Lord, says he, we're in for trouble now. He says, it sounds like the robbers, 3 or 4 of them, and sure enough, there were 4 men come in. It was dark in the place by this time, so one of the robbers says, come on, boys, he said, wasn't there a candle here someplace? Yes, one of them says, hold hard and I'll find it. So he found a candle and he lit the candle. Well, the captain of the crew, the head robber, he says, let's see what we've got here tonight. What a bag of money we have here. God, it's heavy, says he. Oh, says she, thinking to herself, money? She never saw money from one year's end to another, and she thought she'd like to see this money. So she starts wrestling up the door, trying to slide along the door so she could look over the edge. Well, the old man started pulling her back, Well, now, the chief robber says, let's see what we got here. So he opened up the bag and clattered out the money, poured it out onto the table. My fortune, he says, did you ever see such money? Beautiful stuff. Silver coins, to see. Well, she never saw copper coins, never mind silver coins, and she was determined to see this. So she got her fingernails onto the edge of the door and starts pulling herself up. No, the old man was pulling her back again, but she was strong, and determined. Well, one of the robbers says, all very well looking at them, he says, let's divide them up. Good, says the chief robber. Here's 1 to you, 1 to you, 1 to you, and 1 to me. My gosh, he says, these things have never been used. They're brand new, shiny silver. Oh, she's getting really aggravated. She wanted to see the silver, and she's pulling herself up to look over the edge. 1 to you, 1 to you, 1 to you, and 1 to me, says he. They're shining like the new moon. My gosh, they're beauties. 1 to you, 1 to you, 1 to you, and 1 to me. And she's pulling and straining, and one of the robbers ups and says, My fortune, we've got so much here tonight. It's I wonder the very devil doesn't come and claim a share. No sooner did he say the name of the devil than her pulling and straining upset the whole kit and caboodle. Up she went into the air, and the old man and the table too, the door that they were lying on. Up into the air they went and come crashing down. Put out the candle, scattered the money, and scattered the robbers too. They thought it was the devil coming for them, you see, and them being feeling guilty anyway, they started screaming and running for the door. Well, they didn't all make the door. Some of them got out the windows, some of them bounced off the walls until they found the door in the darkness. But away they went anyway, screaming out into the night, through the heather. All of a sudden, dead quiet. The robbers were gone. So the old woman says, "Old man, are you there?" He says, "Where would I be? Of course I'm here." "Any bones broken?" He says, "Wait and I'll tell you." So he felt, and he says, "No, I seem to be okay. What about yourself?" "Oh," she says, "I'm fine." She says, "Let's get out of here." He says, "Just you hold on." He says, "Hold hard a minute or two. Wait till I find that candle." So he looked about and he found a candle and he lit it. "Now, woman," he says, "hold up the ears of your apron." And she grabbed the corners of her apron and held it up. And he went round and he found all that silver and he threw it into her apron and she was loaded. He says, "Now, woman, head for home." And they went home and they lived high in the hog for ages. And the last I heard, they were still doing fine. That's how I heard it. There was a lass and a bonny, bonny lass, and nothing she has gain. She put them high, she put them low, she put them where they hung. She put them where they hung. And tired at last, she laid her down to sleep the woods among. And by there come three lusty lads, and strong. Three lusty lads and strong. The firsteen loosed her satin blouse, 'twas tied with linen bands. The second kissed her cherry cheek. He thought he did nae wrong. He thought he did nae wrong. And what the third did to her is no put in the song. The lassie rose up wi' an awfu' start. I fear I've slept ower long. I fear I've slept ower long. That's all that is to that one. It's about a fella that killed one sweetheart so he could go with another woman. And he was travelling back and forth this road to see his new sweetheart, past where he'd buried in secret his first love. And her ghost come up one night and tackled him, and she tore him from gear to gear. This is your gear. From gore to gore. She tore him to pieces. And she hung him over a stile. The stile is where you climb over a fence, you know. And that's how she disposed of him. She took as much as she could, and then she did something about it. Wally's gin hour yon high, high hill, and down on Dowie Den, there he spied a grievous ghost that would fear 10,000 men. For he's gone up yon high, high hell, and down be Mary's stile. Wan and weary was the ghost that on him did grimly smile. Often you've travelled this road, Wally, your fair new love to see. Often you've travelled this road, Wally, and ne'er a thought to me. Often you've travelled this road, Wally, often you've travelled in sin, and ne'er a thought o' your poor soul, when your life is dead and gone. Often you've travelled this road, Wally, your fair new love to see, but you'll never travel this road again, for the next revenged I'll be. And she has ta'en her perjured love, rived him figure to gear, and on every side o' Mary's style, o' him she hung a share. His father and mother both made moan, his new love she made mere. His father and mother both made moan, and his new love rived her hair. Well, this is called She Was a Rum One, meaning she was a peculiar one. It's kind of got a double meaning to it if you just follow it. But this is the songs that the old women used to sing to me. And used to get me very embarrassed, but I used to get embarrassed and yet I remember the songs, whatever. She was a rum one, fal-de-diddle-dido, but a bonny one, meaning a nice-looking woman. Fal-de-diddle-dido. She was a rum one, fal-de-diddle-dido, but a bonny one, fal-de-diddle-dido. As I roamed out on a May morning right early, there I spied a pretty fair maid, and she was a rum one, fal-de-diddle-dido, but a bonny one, fal-de-diddle-dido. She walked up and she walked down, and I walked close behind her, and I asked of her the reason why she could not stride no wider, for she was a rum one, fal-de-diddle-dido, got a bonny one, fal-de-diddle-dido. Go away, you foolish young man, stop that foolish talking, for it little becomes young men like you to take up a lady's walking. and she was a rum one, fall-de-diddle-die-doo, but a bonny one, fall-de-diddle-die-do. I am a doctor to my trade, my friends they call me Rero. If you'll tell me for your trouble lies, I'll see what I could try, oh. For she was a rum one, fall-de-diddle-die-doo, but a bonny one, fall-de-diddle-die-do. My trouble lies atween my thighs, and there it is a-biding. It tickles me both night and day, and it keeps me famous striding. For she was a rum one, fall-de-diddle-die-doo, but a bonny one, fall-de-diddle-die-do. She lay down upon the bank, and I provided the plaster. When I rose up, she cries to me, oh, never end it, master. For she was a rum one, fall-de-diddle-die-doo, but a bonny one, fall-de-diddle-die-do. She gave to me my winter's keep, likewise my winter's firing, but the best thing that she gave to me was a stable for my stallion. And she was a rum one, fall-de-diddle-die-doo, but a bonny one, fall-de-diddle-die-do. This song's about a man, it was in Edinburgh, in the capital of Scotland, and the policemen took him to be Irish at a time when they were being hard on the Irish and like illegal immigrants, you know. That's nothing new. This was a couple of 100 years ago. They were trying to take up the Irish and send them back home. And this man had been in Ireland, and his nickname was Erin Gabra, which in Gaelic means Ireland forever. But this happened, as I say, in Edinburgh, and the nickname for Edinburgh was Aldriki, because when people started lighting their fires at night to do their cooking for dinner time, the smoke going up, there was terrible pollution. This is long ago, they had pollution there. And the people called it Old Aldriki, which means Old Smoky. It's a smoky old town, so the nickname for Edinburgh is Aldriki, and that comes into the song. My name's Duncan Campbell from the Shire of Argyll. I've travelled this country for mony's the mile. I've travelled through England and Ireland and on the name I go under's bold Erin Gabra. One night in Aldriki as I walked down the street, a saucy policeman by chance I did meet. He glowered in my face and he gave me some jaw, saying, when come ye over bold Erin Gabra? Oh, I'm not a baddie, though in Ireland I've been, nor am I a baddie, though Ireland I've seen. And if I was a baddie, sure what's that of all, for there's many's the bold hero from Erin Gabra. Well, I know you're a bat by the cut of your hair, but you's all turned to Scotchmen as soon as you get here. You've left your own country for breaking the law. We are seasonal stragglers from Erin Gabra. If I was a baddie and you knew it to be true, if I was the devil, then what's that to you? If it wasn't for the baton you hold in your paw, I would show you a game played in Erin Gabra. Then a switch of blackthorn that I held in my fist, about his big body I gave it a twist, and the bleed from his napper I soon cast to flow. I paid him stock and interest from Erin Gabra. Well, the people came round like a flock of wild geese, crying, stop, stop the rascal, he's killed the police. For every friend I had, I'm sure he had twa. It was very hard times then for Erin go Bra. So I picked up my all and I made for the north. I sailed on a wee boat that crosses the Forth. Farewell to old Ricky policeman, and may the devil bide with him, says Erin go Bra. So come all ye young lads that listen to my song. I don't give a farthing to where ye belong. My hame's in Argyle and the Hielands of Bra, but I ne'er took it ill when called Erin go Bra. Okay. It's up to the rigs of London town, meaning up to the tricks of London town. In Oxford city I lost my way. 'Twas in London town I went astray. The prettiest fair maid I did meet, she treated me to kisses sweet. But I was up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. Up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. She took me to some house of fame, the sign of the Ship in Water Lane. A roaring supper she did call, thinking that I would pay for all. But I was up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. Up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. When supper was over and table cleared, she calls me her own and her roving dear. She called for wine both white and red, and a chambermaid to make up our bed. But I was up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. Up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. Betwixt the hours of 1 and 2, she asked me if to bed I'd go. At once we had, I did consent, and it's up to the bedroom door we went. But I was up to the rigs, down to the jigs, up to the rings of London town. Up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. When this fair maid fell fast asleep, softly from her I did creep. I stole her watch and her silken gown, her silver chain and £20. For I was up to the rigs, down to the jigs, up to the rings of London town. Up to the rings, down to the jigs, up to the rings of London town. Come all ye lads that are fine and free, when you meet a girl that's out on the spree. You treat her well, for I done the same, but remember the Ship in Water Lane. For I was up to the rigs, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. Up to the rings, down to the jings, up to the rings of London town. I'll sing you a cheerier one. Another genies. This is how songs come up when I'm singing. I'll sing a song and it'll remind me another one. The Braes of Killiecrankie. Killiecrankie's into Perthshire. It must be Perthshire, yeah. South and west from where I come from. Braes meaning hills. The slopes, the hills of Killiecrankie. Toodle-a-loo-da-loo-da-loo, upon a thistle I sat down again. Here jumped to the moon, for the last that stole my hanky. Toodle-a-loo-da-loo-da-lay, fall-de-doodle all the way, and fall-de-doodle all the day in the Braes of Killiecrankie. Now I'm growing old and frail, just like a dog without a tail. Through Court and Jean McPhail, the lass of Killiecrankie. Doodle-a-loo-da-loo-da-lay, fall-de-doodle all the way, and fall-de-doodle all the day on the Braes of Killiecrankie. Jean McPhail, she's fair and fat, She wears her hair below her hat. She wears her hair a blow her hat on the braes a Killiecrankie. Toodle-a-loodle-a-loodle-a, fall the doodle all the way, fall the doodle all the day on the braes a Killiecrankie. Jean, she said she'd marry me, but afore I wed I'd rather die, afore I wed I'd rather die on the braes a Killiecrankie. Toodle-a-loodle-a-loodle-a, fall the doodle all the way, fall the doodle all the day on the braes a Killiecrankie. Jean, she stood, she roared and cussed, her bloomers fell down and her styes they burst, her all their skidding off a twist and landed through a wind. Toodle-a-loodle-a-loodle-a, fall the doodle all the way, fall the doodle all the day on the braes a Killiecrankie. Toodle-a-loodle-a-loodle-a, fits the price of kippers new, 10 a penny but 12 to you on the braes a Killiecrankie. Toodle-a-loodle-a-loodle-a, they're needing monkeys at the zoo. I think myself if I was you I'd accept the situation. Toodle-a-loodle-a-loodle-a, fall the doodle all the way, fall the doodle all the day on the braes o' Killiecrankie. The last two verses of that song I didn't know, but a woman that I stayed with on the West Coast in Barra, my Auntie Mary, I was singing that song one time. She says, there's two more verses. And she was she had some good songs. She couldn't sing all that well, but she had a lot of good words. And she'd heard that when she was a young girl, gotten hair and toodle-a-loo-a-loo, they're needing monkeys at the zoo. And I thought, that's funny. I never heard anybody else sing it, so I keep it going for her sake.